Okay,
like pineapple
let's get to
pizza.
the top story
me,
of
chat.
today. Okay, Waukesha. Am I saying that right? I don't know. But new details are emerging about the person of interest in the deadly Wisconsin holiday parade. Yesterday, while we were playing a video game, there was a holiday parade in Waukesha. It's like a relatively wealthy part of Wisconsin. They were having a holiday
Nice.
parade. Kids were on the streets. Older people were on the streets. They were just celebrating, Christmas and holiday season. So, and then some fucking piece of shit in a red SUV ran through the crowd. I believe the last number I remember was
seemed interested to talk politics.
5 people were killed.
But with
Their age ranges are from 52 to 81. Among those injured in the attack were 18 children, and I think it's like more than 40 injured total, if I'm not mistaken. But 18 of those 40 that were injured were literally children. So,
Yo, Matt, don't forget to order lunch.
Man intentionally drove in the Wisconsin holiday parade. At least 5 are killed, more than 40 injured. We know the man as a Darrell E. Brooks, a 39-year-old Milwaukee man who is now facing 5 counts of first-degree intentional homicide after authorities said he drove a red SUV into a Christmas parade on Sunday, killing at least 5 adults and injuring more than 40 others, including a dozen children. The dead ranged in age from 52 to 81. Dan Thompson, chief of Waukesha Police Department, told reporters on Monday. The dead range in age from 52 to 81. Dan Thompson, chief of the Waukesha Police Department, told reporters. Mr. Brooks steered the SUV through barricades, ignoring the warnings of officers posted to protect the parade moments after leaving the scene of a domestic disturbance. The incident was not related to terrorism, and Mr. Brooks was not being pursued by the police at the time. He was captured shortly after speeding away from the scene. There was shots fired. It was one shot from a cop, and it wasn't like there wasn't a shooting or anything like that. Police officer fired shots at Mr. Brooks' vehicle, but due to the amount of people at the parade, had to stop. No bystanders were struck. We have no information that Brooks knew anyone in the parade, Mr. Thompson added. Mr. Brooks has been free on a $1,000 bail in an earlier criminal case in which he accused of running over the mother of his child in the parking lot of a Milwaukee gas station with his maroon 2010 Ford Escape earlier this month. And of course, racist CNN has nothing to say about Waukesha parade perp. Wonder why? Uh-oh. I suspect he's black then. That's what's going on, right? No shot would Steven Crowder make a video like this if the dude isn't black. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is like classic. All right, let's watch this.
This morning, certainly sadness in Wisconsin this morning, where a holiday parade turned deadly on Sunday. The parade has been a beloved
Jesus fucking Christ!
Wow,
wait,
none.
What the fuck?
family tradition for over half a century in Waukesha, but this morning, the community is in shock after an SUV plowed through the crowd, killing at least 5 people and injuring more than 40. Police this morning now are investigating a person of interest in this terrible tragedy. NBC senior national correspondent Tom Yamas is there for us. Tom, what's the latest as to what happened here?
Hey guys, good morning to you. Well, we do have some new reporting right now to share with you. NBC News has confirmed that the person of interest, the driver in this case, his name is Darrell Brooks. He's 39 years old, from Wisconsin right now. So far, he's not been charged with a crime. He's
Happy to be here.
He's black. Yeah, people are mocking Black Lives Matter in Rittenhouse trial. Yeah, totally. Remember, when Kyle Rittenhouse, okay, goes to a Black Lives Matter protest with a gun and partners up with a bunch of Proud Boys and other white supremacists.
Thanks for being a nice guy.
That's actually not political. He's just defending private property. But when a fucking random black dude is a psycho and wants to murder people or whatever the fuck is going on, we don't know. Well, then that means he's actually doing it for Black Lives Matter. He's actually responsible for every black person ever. Now,
Hello,
this,
my pearl necklace, daddy.
This very simple concept is actually at the heart of racism. When a marginalized community's member decides to do something that is a crime or awful, he is immediately the representative of every single black person. This is just how people see it. That's why whenever you see a trans person who is like a pedophile or something, that becomes like national, not really a national news story, but usually that's like what fascists and reactionaries and like psychotic conservatives on the internet grab onto so they can turn around and say, this is how every trans person is. Every trans person is like this. It's like, well, no, that's not how this works. You know what I mean? I don't see a white person and automatically assume that like they're going to do a school shooting. I don't see a white person and automatically assume that they're going to be a fucking defending private property and doing some self-defense. Okay? That's just not how that works. And when someone is when someone is white, they do benefit from being the default position because no one thinks that way. Like there's people in the chat memeing about it right now. They're like, no, I actually do think every white person is a pedophile or something like that, right?
11 months. I don't think
you're
I've got the
generalizing
brain rot
yourself
yet.
now, though,
Right?
Lol. See,
Right?
this person is unfortunately too stupid to understand that this argument is literally against generalization. Like I'm saying, I literally do not, when I see a white person, I don't think like automatically assume pedophile or a school shooter or going to do self-defense. I don't do that. And none of us do that. We don't have a monolithic approach to white people. I know there's chatters in here that are doing that currently and they're memeing about it, but like the reality is no one actually does that shit. And that's because it's the dominant group. But you are literally generalizing Kyle Rittenhouse. Exactly. I'm generalizing the Kyle Rittenhouses. This is a racist thing to do, which is to suspect that one individual is the representative, especially when they're in the act of doing something that's like criminal or bad, wrong, immoral, whatever. That person is automatically the representative of every single person that is gay if they're gay, every single person that's black if they're black. That is a racist way to operate. Let's keep going.
He's just being called a person of interest. But from these videos, you can see how terrifying what happened last night was. The driver came through a barricade, not unlike this one, got onto Main Street.
Gay is a race? No, I'm saying different forms of identity and marginalization as a consequence of like your identity. You can't really change about yourself. That's what I meant. Anyways.
Where the parade was, there was just so many people, families lining up the streets and marching in the street. And then he just took his car and he floored it. He started plowing into people, different groups, including some youth dance troops, another group called the Dancing Grannies. Unfortunately, the Dancing Grannies have gone on Facebook and said some of their members were among those killed in the accident yesterday, in this incident, I should say. There was also members of the Archdiocese of Wisconsin, of Milwaukee here as well. A priest was injured. 40 people were hurt, 5 people killed. There's a lot of kids still at the Children's Hospital here in Wisconsin. There were so many victims on the road that there weren't enough ambulances. Literally, parents had to pick up their kids and rush them over to the hospital. We are going to have a news conference later today where we hope to have new information and find out, the why here, why this person did it. We have some early reporting that indicates this man was possibly fleeing some kind of knife fight that he had earlier in the day. We're still trying to get clarity on that. We have heard there's no ties to terrorism so far. A lot of people were worried this might be a terrorist incident, but regardless, it's just horrific. Shanaz, you were mentioning, this is like part of this community. It's been here for so long, more than 50 years. People come together every year. This is how they kick off the holidays, and now they have to deal with this horrific tragedy and so many children who are hurt trying to fight for their lives right now in the hospital.
It's so sad.
Our senior national correspondent, Tom Yamas, there for us in Waukesha with an update. Tom, we'll be checking in with you throughout the day.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Tom.
The point is, the entire week last week, you were talking about how if Kyle was black, he'd be dead if the cops saw him with a gun. But this dude committed a terrorist attack as a black man and somehow was captured peacefully. Yes. When I say something about black people being armed in public, being seen as a danger or a threat, I'm not relying exclusively on a singular anecdote. I'm relying on the data. I'm relying on police shootings of unarmed black people. I'm relying on the disproportionate rate in which police shoot armed black people. I'm relying on the data that police actually target, for example, in an effort to take guns away off the streets in the stop and frisk policies that they were implemented. Police actually ended up stopping fuckload more black people, and yet white people had more guns. I'm relying on my understanding, my comprehensive understanding of the systemic discrimination that is a part of our white supremacist criminal justice system. I'm not talking about a single black guy that got arrested peacefully, so that must mean that, like, oh my God, he's good. Also, even in the singular anecdote that you are trying to point to and not looking at the data, you're talking about a person who was literally in a vehicle, okay, engaging in vehicular manslaughter, and they still shot at him. I don't even know if they thought he was black, considering the fact that it was nighttime, and historically, black people get stopped less frequently at nighttime when they're in their cars, because at nighttime it's much harder to figure out if someone is black or white when they're driving a vehicle. So even then, it wouldn't actually work in that sense. But if it did, if I was a piece of shit and I wanted to use that anecdote against you, I'd say, well, they knew he was black and they shot at his car. That's the reason. But I'm not. When I talk about these sorts of instances, I'm not talking about 1v1, like one particular instance versus another. I'm talking about empirical evidence that also corresponds to what I am mentioning. Did you get possessed by Sam Harris? No, I just have my voice is out, so I have to be quieter and calmer. Waukesha, Wisconsin, police suspects in deadly crash was in a domestic disturbance just minutes before. No evidence of terrorism seen. Candace Owens is lifting the curtain again. I mean, she's a racist, white supremacist, trash piece of shit. If you watch the news, you'd be brainwashed to believe that white supremacy is our country's #1 threat. It is not. If you look at hard facts, data, and FBI statistics, the black community, just 13% of the population, is the most violent community by race. We have to stop lying. Wow. I mean, it's cool. It's just like, I don't know what to say about this other than the fact that, like, I kind of don't want to say anything about this because, like, black people get very mad at me anytime I say something about Candace Owens and say, like, stay out of black people's business. But, like, at this point, as disrespectful as Rachel Dolezal is, I feel like at least she worked for the NAACP and did more. You know what I mean? Like, she literally, she like genuinely wants to do something more than fucking Candace Owens. Not saying that she's a good person in any meaningful capacity. I mean, I meme about how she's my queen and whatnot, but like, Candace Owens is like such a disgusting slime bag, like a horrible monster. Who the fuck says that? Like, who the fuck would say that? I know the black people in my community don't care when I make Candace Owens jokes. I'm saying that, you know, you consent, I consent. Twitter, black Twitter does not consent. They get so fucking mad. BLM guarantees more black death. Black men are the most murderous group in America, and their victims are mostly other black people. It has nothing to do with white supremacy, but the media and politicians lie so that we never fix the real issue. BLM guarantees more black death. That's a disgusting fucking take. Dude, the worst part, black Twitter is so fake anyway. Yeah, no, black Twitter is really fucking... It's just, black Twitter is really funny, but yes, they can be very fucking fake. That's true. Referring to this stuff as hard facts is such an indecent way to phrase it, even if it were true. It's not true. The quickest way to address 1350 is that we're talking about arrest numbers, not conviction rates, okay? And even if it was conviction rates, it still doesn't matter. Black people are literally heavily policed, okay? Which means that you're going to get arrested at a higher rate. They also get worse sentences in the criminal justice for the exact same crimes. Not only that, but also on top of that, even if it was true, even if 13% of the population was responsible for 50% of the crime, that's not how this works. It's like, okay, 50% of the population are men. They're responsible for 90% or 99% of the crime. But we don't actually say we're gonna fucking over police men. We can't do that. That's not how that works. You are just trying to rationalize your hatred, and you're trying to justify over-policing a community and your racial biases by pointing to faulty data and a faulty interpretation of data. Remember what I just talked about? A singular black individual does not represent the entirety of the black community, and their actions should not be met with like fucking BLM or whatever the BLM movement represents. Just like looking at FBI crime statistics, which is just arrest numbers, by the way, not even fucking conviction numbers. And even if you look at conviction numbers, for example, according to the Innocence Project and numerous other resources, we know that like 90% of people on death row that are found innocent once there's new, DNA evidence or whatever is available are black. So that clearly represents that very unjust system. Therefore, all the data that you would try to interpret looking at the criminal justice system and statistics has to also be met with a little bit of scrutiny or that additional context. You know, it's just fucking, this is just racism with extra steps. That's what this is. Interpretate. I was going to say interpret. Fucked it up. But black people can't be racist. Okay. I'm just going to time you out for an hour. Think about how stupid that sounds. And come back, I think, after that. Did you see the driver's music video? The SUV is in the video. Is he a rapper too? Oh, here we go. I cannot fucking wait for the Republicans to use this as like an opportunity to do as much racist agitprop as possible, like Steven Crowder. So we got some details, okay, but it seems as though this was an intentional act. Wait, what? No, not an intentional act, but we don't know whether it was intentional or not, but we do know that it was in the aftermath of a domestic abuse case. But I don't know how Fox News is going to mention it, so we'll see.
Fox News alert, 5 people are dead and more than 40 injured as police reveal more about their desperate attempts to stop that SUV as it tore through a Wisconsin Christmas parade.
Oh, okay, they didn't show anything. Okay, Jesus Christ, I got scared.
Discharge his weapon at the suspect vehicle to try to stop the vehicle. No bystanders were injured as a result of the weapon discharge. We do not believe there's any shots that were fired from the vehicle. We believe that officers discharged a firearm to stop the vehicle.
Retired Detroit police chief and Michigan gubernatorial candidate James Craig joins us now. Chief, always good to talk to you. You know, in listening to that, I thought about you. We're struggling this morning to understand as much as possible about this incident. And listening to that police press conference, I can only imagine in real time.
Pretty irresponsible to shoot at a speeding car that's in the middle of a parade with bystanders everywhere. Yeah, that's true. Which is why I'm actually surprised that the cops didn't do that. Because cops are notorious for doing that. I was actually gonna give credit where credit is due, that only one shot was fired at the vehicle and that they actually stopped. No, they shot once. They shot once. That's trust me, that is like incredible. That is a lot of restraint. Credit where credit is due. Wrong multiple shots. Wait, really? They did? They shot multiple times? Jesus Christ. I thought they only like shot a bunch of times. Like they shot once, I thought. Love how that's restraint. That is literally restraint. Yeah, much better to just let it keep going and injuring and killing tons, lol. My friend, I think you don't understand. The reason why you don't shoot at a fucking vehicle in that situation is because you want to limit the amount of injuries and death. I know that you probably think this is how it goes in the movies, but when you shoot someone, when a car is already going, one, you have the likelihood of shooting random people on accident. Bullets ricochet. Bullets also go through cars very easily. It's not like in the movies, okay? There's no like shooting the gas tank and like letting it erupt in fire. And also, if you kill the driver, then again, that driver could uncontrollably go into a crowd and kill even more people. It's not the right thing to do. So not mag dumping the car is actually the correct. Not mag dumping the car is actually the correct thing to do there. In the video around the gate, I heard like 4 or so where no people were around. When cops in California were looking for Dorner, trying to corner the Dorner, they literally mag dumped into a fucking a mother and daughter that had a completely separate pickup truck that didn't even look like Dorner's car. They mag dumped into that fucking car. Luckily, they survived. But like, this is something that happens regularly, okay? Bullets stop car on impact. Wait, what? No, they don't. Wait, what? Did you just say bullets stop a car on impact? Bullets ricochet. Bullets also go through cars with ease in a lot of instances. Bullets do not stop cars on impact. The car would explode and kill everyone? No, that's not what happens either. Bullets also don't blow up cars. This isn't a video game. This isn't Grand Theft Auto. This is not the movies. That's not what happens. They just go through the car, unless it hits the engine, in which case it has a likelihood of stopping within the engine, but that's it. Bullets can't pierce the aluminum frame of a car, idiot. Exactly. Bullets very easily can pierce through a car, just like the ad break pierces through the top of the hour, especially 12 minutes late when you forget to run it 12 minutes prior to the top of the hour. This is literally 1987 George Orwell, Animal Factory, Animal Farm. What are you drinking right now? Cold brew, as I always do in the mornings. We got to rewatch that Paul Harrell video about car cover. Yeah, a lot of my information. Serenade, thank you for the 5-tier-1 gift subs. That's where I was referencing. And Lilarak, thank you for the 5 gifted subs as well.
The decisions a police officer has to make in ascertaining what's going on. Can you take me behind the scenes a little bit on that kind of decision-making process?
Yeah, good morning, Will. And again, my heart and prayers goes out to the 5 that lost their lives, certainly those who are recovering from their injuries. I would tell you, a police officer has a split second to make a decision. You had a guest on earlier, a retired lieutenant, and I tend to agree. A lot of what we know now is pure speculation. But what comes to mind for me when you look at the fact that the officers used deadly force, they believed a crime was being committed. What I saw in the video is the fact that the vehicle had front-end damage, which tends to suggest, especially if it was fresh damage, what happened prior to this tragic act. And then lastly, I looked at the trajectory of the vehicle, and this was probably what was in the mind of the officers. This individual, if it was a medical emergency or mechanical failure on a part of the vehicle, the individual could have veered away, maybe striking a building. That didn't happen. In fact, he went into a crowd of people. So it does tend to suggest, this was an intentional act. But we'll have to let the investigation play out, which includes mining data from social media. We know about the high-profile trial that was just concluded. Was this part of it? We just don't know. But I will tell you, Will, I also know in the aftermath of the Boston bombings at the Maryland.
How is conservative media going to spin this one? He's black and he's a rapper. They're going to say he's an angry black man who's a rapper. Rap music is bad. Black people are bad. They're more violent, yada, yada, yada. This is a BLM retaliation. They're going to say a bunch. It's just the easiest. This is like old school. You just run the classics. You say he's a black supremacist, that he loves Black Lives Matter, and that's why he wanted to kill God-fearing Christian whites. And where can you find God-fearing Christian whites? At the holiday parade, where like conservatives are defending themselves against the war on Christmas, something like that. He might be Muslim too. Oh, there you go. There's one other angle there as well. Then it's like Muslim terrorist. It's a Islamist, fundamentalist Muslim terrorist that's also black and a rapper. Probably fucking vaccinated too. It's just like anything and everything. Yeah. Yeah, another part of this is, you don't need guns to kill multiple people. You can use your car. What are you going to ban cars? Stuff like that. There's just so much. There's so much you can do here.
Marathon, departments across the country have taken a number of safety protocols to prevent these type of terrorist type acts from happening. If in fact this was a terror-related act,
God.
Domestic or foreign.
They literally show they don't show the impact, but they show the moment before the impact. It's insane.
Yeah, and Chief, Waukesha is a small town. I don't know how many different protocols the police department has available to them to put into place, but that raises an interesting question in my mind. How did he get onto the parade route in the first place? Again, we don't know his motivations. Was he intentionally getting onto the parade route? Was he running for something and then ended up on the parade route? But it makes you wonder how many different of those potential police protocols he went around to end up in this situation.
That's a great point, and that's why I brought up safety protocols. I know here in Detroit, we have managed a number of parades. We plan for tragedy. Certainly, we put in place with the arteries that lead into the main parade artery, we protect those areas so that these kind of things can't happen. So again, we don't know what was in place, if anything was in place. And sadly today, this can happen anywhere. I know one of your guests was speaking, how could this have happened here in our town? It can happen anywhere, and we have to plan for it.
Chief, is there anything else you can take from the video?
I bet those white people were white supremacists. Dude, get off the internet. Here, why don't you get off the internet yourself? If the white supremacist Kyle got off the self-defense, this is also self-defense. This person is a reactionary in the chat who is absolutely writing this stuff so that he can make it seem like he's actually a black guy or a leftist. Okay, that's what it is. It's not misguided anger. This is not legitimate. No person legitimately feels this way. Okay? No, stop jumping into and stop saying rad lib disease. He's not a real person. This is a person LARPing as the type of person that they believe the left is like. Okay? When you see stuff like this, recognize it. Okay, this is a Black's Rule type beat. Exactly. It's blurred, but still, I don't want to show it.
We've had people on this morning that talked about, and we don't have audio on the video, but we do have witness accounts. Was he honking? Was he mowing through? Is there anything else you can take from this video to help us understand what the motivations may have been?
Again, I agree with that, Lieutenant, you had on earlier this morning. It tends to suggest that it was intentional. I don't recall anyone making reference to a horn blowing. That would suggest that, hey, I'm having a medical emergency or the vehicle is failing, I can't stop.